welcome back. This is episode 4 of the Pāli Scriptures portion of the Buddhist books series. If this is your first time seeing me, click here instead. That is the whole playlist. I recommend starting with episode 1 of the recital of Dhammapada. So far in this Pāli Scriptures portion, we have been reading this, which is basically kind of an introduction to the Pāli Scriptures and Pāli literature in general. So far it's been talking about the Pāli language and how that's not actually the name of a language, but it refers to the language that the Buddhist scriptures were written down in, right? So in today's usage and for the past few hundred years, everybody's been saying Pāli as the language that it's written in, which it does mean the language that it's written in, but Pāli language, the phrase Pāli language means canonical language. So, but for short, we can call it Pāli and say it's a language. Thank you, Macrocosm, for this wonderful tantric Buddhist musical accompaniment to our meditations. Chikung. Okay, if that didn't make any sense to you, then this is the first time you've seen me, or you skipped a few episodes, and that's okay. I won't explain, because I already explained, and I don't want to waste too much valuable time. I will waste valuable time, don't get me wrong, but not too much. See, we're sponsored by a different sort of plane of existence today. All right, so I will jump right in, and then I will reveal the surprise. Is it a surprise, or did I write it in the description? It's not a surprise. Okay. I'll just, actually, why don't we just get right to it, right? We'll set this aside for today. As promised, the first document, I think, or one of the very first documents that this document, this Pāli literature, like textbook, it's like a very dry sort of scholarly approach, a history of Indian literature. It mentioned on page 2, the Sasanavamsa, written in Burma in 1861, uses the word Pāli in a context where it seems to be the name of a language. Since the Sasanavamsa is based upon an earlier Burmese text, let's check out that footnote, shall we? Ibid 168. Never mind. We won't check out the footnotes ever again. And reported, the usage of the name Pāli in Burma is probably earlier than would appear. The Sasanavamsa, eh? Well, check it out. The Sasanavamsa, written in the 1800s, then translated into English. Apparently, the only English copy or something was sitting in a museum for a long time. What? And then somebody had the courtesy to photocopy it and give it to a friend, who then photocopied it and gave it to a friend, right? And at some point in the chain of photocopies of apparently an 8x10 printout of this document, it seems, somebody had a clever idea, and they took JPEG images of these printed copies of copies and stuck them into a Word document and published it in a nice hardback cover. But as soon as you open it, you're like, whoa, okay. There's these huge margins on top, and the text is kind of like hard to read, and some of the letters are missing, and you're like, all right. And then at the front, there's this whole thing about how that's because this is genuine. It's so genuine. You can't get any more genuine than this. It's not laziness. It's not the fact that they couldn't afford to hire someone to sit down and retype it and someone else to proofread it. No, it's because it's genuine. So this is from the Pāli Text Society, based in London, and I have just given them a substantial amount of coin to send me their entire collection. So I'm hoping that it's not all like this. But if it is, I will accept, as a good Buddhist in training, as a good aspiring Buddhist, as someone who maybe kind of got the gist of part of the message of the Buddha, I will accept things as they are and be grateful for the great gift of this knowledge, because this is all I can find. I mean, there isn't like a better option. If you want the Mahāyāna Sutras, you can find it in every language, far and wide, because they got very popular. But I don't know. We'll learn together. Maybe we'll discover together that it's all just too heady, or too this, or too that, or I don't know. I don't know what the reason was that someone came along and said, okay, let's just call all of that a deer vehicle and make this new thing called a bullock vehicle, and tell everyone to be bodhisattvas, and we'll make cool statues of goddesses and stuff. And that seems to be what people want, so we'll give it to them. I don't know. I'm not saying that was what happened, but it seems like it to me at the moment. So this is not a Pāli Sutra. It's not Pāli Scriptures, but it is the Sasanavamsa mentioned in this. So today, I'm going to read a bit of this. What do you think? And I get to practice my old man skills. All right. Let's get to it, shall we? I'm going to skip over the introduction because I kind of gave you the introduction already. I'm sure whatever it said was just a long-winded way of saying what I said about the photocopy of the photocopy on the Word document. All right. The monks and kings of Mirama. Okay. In the following chapter, the names and dates of the kings of Burma appearing in the text follow Panasana. Those in the notes are drawn from other sources. See authors cited. For comparison. Okay. Occasional, with an O. This is old. It's from the 1800s. Occasional with an O. Oh, wait, occasional has an O. Never mind. Okay. Occasional. It just looks odd to me right now. Why did I think it had an A? All right. Occasional references are given by page to the printed text of the Sasanavamsa published by the Pāli Text Society. I am so confused. So the Pāli Text Society, who published this book, they're the ones mentioned in the text that is then photocopied 1,000 times and then stuck into a Word document and published by the Pāli Text Society. Okay, it's like one of those serpents swallowing its own tail. Like, I feel like a time traveler. I'm so confused right now. Like, have you seen Star Trek 4, where what's his name? Captain Kirk sells the watch that Bones had given him for his birthday, and then he says, "Oh, well, Bones is going to give me that same watch again." Or the same premise happens in Somewhere in Time. If you haven't seen Somewhere in Time, there's probably a lot of people. In fact, I know there's a lot of people that haven't seen Somewhere in Time. So if for some reason one of the younger folk has stumbled upon this video and you have not seen Somewhere in Time, just turn this off right now. Turn on your camera and do yourself a favor and do me a favor and make a reaction video of yourself watching Somewhere in Time, and then post a link to it in the comments below so I can watch you watch that movie for the first time, because it's the closest that us older folk will ever get to, watching it for the first time. And I have no kids, so, I have to vicariously experience showing these old movies to my kids by way of reaction videos. I know. It's like some kind of weird illness or plague upon... Anyway, we haven't gotten anywhere, have we? It's 10 minutes and we just got past the footnote at the beginning, or the head note, whatever. Anyway, all right, here we go. It's an adventure. We're on this ride together. Okay, here we go. In the Burma of today, I'm not going to read this whole book, by the way. This isn't episode 1 of the Sasanavamsa. I just kind of want to read a little bit right now. We'll come and go back to it, back and forth, but I've got a lot of books that are not, like Burmese documents talking about the history of Buddhism. Not that that doesn't have value, but there's the Pāli Scriptures are coming, so translated into English presumably, and really old commentary on them. So I just thought it'd be nice to take a break from this old dry textbook for a little while. Read a different old dry textbook. Here we go. In the Burma of today, as in the Europe of the Middle Ages, the monks are the historians. Right? The last recension of the National Chronicle, or the history of the kings, Mahavamsa, was the work of a body of learned monks and ex-monks, that's in quotes, in the year 1824. But though a lay point of view is hardly, some of the words are like, missing parts, because like I said, photocopy of a photocopy, and then stuck in a Word document and published by the same organization that apparently is mentioned in the text that was photocopied 1,000 times. Yeah, it's a time travel loop, some kind of weird interdimensional time travel loop that this book has been through. It's magic. It's magical. Okay, where were we? The Maharajavamsa. I'm sure I said that wrong before. But though a lay point of view is hardly to be expected from such a body of editors, the native chronicles constituted by students of Burmese history have been described as very full and by no means untrustworthy. Cool. So some people think that this thing that apparently I'm going to read in this book is trustworthy. It's not untrustworthy, right? Double negative. See, I'm doing the incense again today, so we got that nice effect. Very crisp in the front, blurry in the back. Anyway, all right. The Sasanavamsa, a work of narrower scope, cannot, of course, add to our knowledge of the political and military history of the author's country. Yet, insofar as the religion of the Buddha has played a great part in Burma's social life, this was written a long time ago, if you're not up to speed. Mark Zuckerberg has played a great part in Burma's recent racism? I don't know what else to call it. Like how people have been getting very extreme in different communities as a result of social media, as a result of Facebook in particular. In Burma, it's the anti-Muslim sentiments. So there's like almost zero Muslims as far as I know. This is coming from a place of ignorance, but in Burma, very tiny population. Most of the people there have never met one, but they, with a passion, apparently, just hate them so much on account of the extremists who do terrible things, of course, which are like 1 in 200 million, or 1 in a billion, or something like that. Or, more like 1 in 200 million, or 1 in some number of hundreds of millions of the Islamic world. Just like 1 in 100 million Christians, are the people that go into malls and blow everyone's heads off with a shotgun. It's you'll find it anywhere. Except for maybe in Buddhism, unless you count these radicalized Burmese Buddhists who on Facebook posting these terrible memes and stuff that get promoted because hate sells. The algorithm sees, oh, you react to this, I'll show you more of it, like that. Robots playing with the human mind. Anyway, we were talking about Burmese social life. I think that's like hazily recollected from watching television. All right. So, I'm not interested in I want to read the Sasanavamsa. Like, are we going to get into the Sasanavamsa here? I don't want to waste your precious time talking about the thing that this is supposed to be about. Is the Sasanavamsa in here? Yes. Page 1 of the Sasanavamsa is like 100 pages into the Sasanavamsa book. Yay! Yay! See this? So that far into, there's this much introduction. Okay, all right. You can read the introduction on your own, or probably you can find it in a PDF document later on. It's not in English. Oh, lovely. Oh. So we've got 100 pages of just people saying, yeah, well, the Sasanavamsa is like this. It's kind of like that, and people say that it's like this, and by the way, here it is, but we didn't bother to translate it. Wow, I actually spent money on this. Wow, I'm a little nervous about the giant pile of books that the same organization that published this is sending me. Let's get back to this stuff that we were reading. Maybe it'll surprise us. And it's talking, I'm looking through the period in which, the following reign of so-and-so. Does it say what it says? It doesn't say, okay, here we go. This looks like it could be something. Maybe. Is there just a translation? Sorry to be wasting your time. How are you guys? Are you enjoying this at all? A little bit? I hope so. Okay, it looks like there's some English translation here. Okay, good news. But half of the book is the original Burmese or Siamese or whatever. Okay. Yay, good news. It's not all total waste. It's just of the schools named were often after its leader. Yeah, okay. The death of a son succeeded by... Okay. All right. The anecdotes follow an account of the religious literature. See, that's the kind of thing. I'm like, are you translating it or are you not translating it? You're just sort of talking about it. All right. Conclusion. The history. Conclusion of what? I will take a look at this when I'm not recording myself, and I will determine what parts of this are worth reading aloud to you and talking about. In the meantime, we will pick up right where we left off in this book. Okay. Sorry about that. Are you guys still with me? Are you still watching this? Okay. All right. Hope you're enjoying yourself on some level. All right. A history of the Theravāda tradition. Yes. He then questioned Ananda. You remember we were talking about as the two experts expounded these matters. Yeah, okay. This is right where we left off. As the two experts expounded these matters, the other Theras repeated their words after them. Buddha-Ghosa, in his account of the same council, states that the fifth Nikaya, the Khuddaka Nikaya, included whatever sayings of the Buddha were not included in the first four Nikayas. Okay. The Pāli account does not mention the Abhidhamma specifically, although Buddha-Ghosa's interpretation of Nikaya does not provide, the inclusion of the Abhidhamma in the Khuddaka Nikaya. The versions of the story included in the Dipavamsa and the Mahavamsa state that Ananda repeated the Dhamma, which could be taken to include the Abhidhamma. Some of the northern schools, however, do specifically include the Abhidhamma and state that this was expounded by the Kassapa himself. I mean, I'm looking forward to either finding out what part of this is a document translated into English from the 1830s about the history of Buddhism, and or getting hopefully some of the mountain of books that the Pāli Text Society in London is sending me will contain translations of the Pāli Scriptures so that we can read them. But so far I'm starting to feel a little bit more sympathy for the Lotus Sutra and maybe the situation people were in, where if all they had was a lot of like heady footnotes about, well, you know, so-and-so misinterpreted the such and such and had 5 questions for so-and-so, but we don't know what they are, and then this happened and then that happened, then I can understand why someone would sit down and want to just say, okay, you know what, everything that came before right now is a deer cart, and we're just going to pick up right at the end of the last lecture that the Buddha actually gave, apparently according to the Pāli Sutras, and say he gave this new lecture that said, pay no attention to that earlier stuff and listen to what I have to say now. Bodhisattvas. I'm developing a little bit of sympathy for the author of the Lotus Sutra, I have to admit. But we shall see when the Pāli Sutras arrive. I mean, hearing Alan Watts talk about the Pāli Sutras, they sound really cool, but I want to read them myself, you know? That's the thing. I don't want to hear it all from Alan Watts. I don't want to come on here and say, Buddhism is this according to Alan Watts, because, you know, I mean, for one thing, a lot of people will say, well, yeah, but, you know, he died of alcoholism, and it's like, okay, ad hominem argumentum, but like just barking the Latin titles of logical fallacies at people is generally considered a rude form of conversation. But I don't know, you know, like, if you haven't already, there's hours and hours, 20 hours or more of Alan Watts lectures that are worth listening to if you're into that sort of thing. There's also his old black and white show from 1959, I believe it was, on KQED. It was a television show like Mr. Rogers, except it was like, he was already 40 at the time, I think. And he was, you know, he had gone, first he was an Episcopal priest. He grew up Anglican, went to St. Paul's Cathedral, the big fancy one in London, when he was young. And then he became an Episcopal priest, and then he got inspired and started writing all these books about Christianity, and kind of like looking toward the East and saying, hey, you know, they're doing this, and they're in touch with this idea, and we have the potential for that, or we have the seeds of that in our scriptures. Why aren't we doing that? Why are we just doing this instead? And then his peers at the time were like, you know. And so, I mean, I should mention that all the Episcopals and Episcopal rectors, I should say, their version of priests that I've spoken to about Alan Watts, they love Alan Watts today. They're very proud of the fact that he had some connection with the Episcopal Church. I mean, if you're an Episcopal priest or an Episcopal rector and you don't love Alan Watts, do comment below and let me know. Because I've never met one. And I've met actually more than you'd think of Episcopal rectors. Some of them I went to school with, some of them were my like occult teachers back in the day. But anyway, you know, I'm not going to say more about that because he's a bishop now, and you know, we don't want to blow his cover. But what else? So Alan Watts, he finally, you know, had enough of just sort of being ridiculed by his Episcopal peers, and he got drawn more and more into Eastern philosophy, but he didn't really adopt a particular Eastern philosophy. He taught about Zen philosophy. He taught about sort of Hindu, what they call Hindu, you know, like there's like a few different divisions. I mean, I've learned more since I've come to India, but it's all kind of like not solid in there. I know that there's like not everybody agrees that it's all oneself. You know what I mean? Like there isn't one. Like there's this Heart of Awareness, which is a beautiful document. And my wife Priyal said, "Read this. This is enlightenment." And I read it, and it was like, "This is great." This strikes me as like if Alan Watts had only been given this one document and said, "This is Hindu philosophy," then that would explain his point of view about Hindu philosophy, because everything I've heard about Hindu philosophy from people other than Alan Watts don't sound like Alan Watts, except for Heart of Awareness, which is an old, it's not a sutra, it's not it is a scripture, but there's a word for it, and it's slipping my It's slipping my mind right now. But yeah, then he didn't talk too much about like Vajrayana, but he did mention Tantra a bit, kind of in passing. But it was sort of the everything is nothing philosophy, everything is everything, or all self is one self philosophy, and he would talk about each of these philosophies, but it wasn't clear what his philosophy was. But anyway, yeah, no, he was the one who pointed me to Shobogenzo, which is there, the 4 books of Shobogenzo. And then Dogen was recommending, he was the one who said this sutra, this sutra, this sutra. So I went and got the sutras Dogen recommended and filled in a lot of the gaps. And then he would say this great master. I'd say, what can I find about that great master, or what document written by the student of that great master about his teachings, and then filled in that whole shelf. And then my friends and people, on the internet would recommend this and that and this and that, and I filled in the gaps and then put everything in order. And then started with this series and got to the Lotus Sutra, and I was just so horrified by how they were brushing off everything that came before the Lotus Sutra that I decided to order, a massive quantity of these Pāli books and dive into them instead. So that's the story here of my wild goose chase, as my dad would call it, goose chasing footnotes. Anyway, all right. I'll read a bit more, just a little bit, and then we'll close up. And this was kind of, I don't know, was this an okay one? Was I talking too much or not reading enough? Or I don't know, it was kind of all over the place this time. I apologize. But you get kind of an idea of where this is going, where it's coming from, and why we're looking forward to all these books coming. And then I'll take a look at this before the next recording. By the way, I got vaccinated today. I got my 2nd dose of COVID shield. Some of my friends back in the States are whining about being coerced into getting the best vaccine available to the human race right now, which is, of course, the Pfizer. And it's not available here. I mean, it is here and there, but what ends up happening is you get the first shot, and then when it comes time for you to get the 2nd shot, they're like, oh, we don't have any, we ran out, so it's like not a good idea to get it here. So we got COVID Shield, which is like 81% effective as opposed to the 97 that you guys are whining about. Like, the Gestapo is making me get vaccinated, because I can't take this flight or whatever if I'm not, or I don't know, I won't talk too much about that, but in a lot of ways, I'm very, very much happier to be here. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. There's this whole thing. So, yeah, as far as free speech, I don't have it, not very much here, but I can feel free to talk about the crap going on back in the States, and all I risk is being shunned by the people on social media who have the opposite opinion. Just like there's people on my Facebook right now from back in the States that are like pro-Putin on this whole Ukraine issue, they just like to say, well, America did this and this and this, and Putin, oh, he's in that. So, and Ukraine, well, they can't handle being a sovereign nation, apparently, who has like financial ties with people in the U.S., and so it's better that Putin and his oligarchs go in and just take over and annex it and make it a colony of Russia. I don't understand the logic, but there's some people that have that opinion, and they are free to express that opinion openly on the internet, and nobody's gonna kick them out of the U.S., for instance. So that's one point for the U.S. Right. So where were we? None of this has anything to do with the Pāli Scriptures, and I apologize to anybody who feels like they got duped by the title of this episode. I'll just finish the sentence and then we'll close. The versions of the story included in the I think I already read this, state that Ananda repeated the Dhamma, which could be taken to include the Abhidhamma. Yes, we already read this. Some of the northern schools, however, do specifically include the Abhidhamma and state that this was expounded by Kassapa himself. All right. And just because I'm a little nervous, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the parts where I said the stuff. But I'm going to leave in the parts where I talk about how I'm not supposed to say the stuff. And so that part where you saw, I was talking and then it jumped to something else, that was because I said some stuff. And I don't want to risk getting deported. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for going on this ride with me. And we will do the prayer and close. And until next time. And I'm going to be coming down with some flu-like symptoms tonight. So it may be a few days. I mean, because of the vaccine. It's pretty much like clockwork, this one. Yeah, and then on March 6th, if everything goes according to plan, I'll be with a few other people interviewing Tamara Lucid about her experiences with Manly P. Hall, and that'll be fun. So looking forward to that. And all right. Again, thank you all for going on this ride with me. Sorry it's such a bumpy ride at times. To the north and to the south, to the east and to the west, to the spirits of light among us, and to the spirits below, we send out our reverent love and compassion. May all beings be happy. May all beings be serene. May all beings be in peace. Until next time.